tax planners have told me that they refer to Labuan as jewel of Southeast Asia. Why? No capital gains tax. The secret weapon overcoming the requirements of MM2H. It's legal.
Are you tired of paying ridiculous taxes where you are and looking for a smarter legal way to structure your business while also enjoying a better lifestyle overseas? For years, I've shown you why Malaysia is such an incredible place to live. But what about doing business here? Today I'm with Nigel Lo, an Australian qualified lawyer born in Sarawak. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Good to have you back.
Thank you. Good to be back.
He's an expert helping Westerners and Aussies set up businesses in Malaysia the right way, including Labuan structures for tax efficiency.
Did you know that there is a little island known as the Federal Territory of Labuan that is located on the outskirts of East Malaysia? One of the most best kept secrets that Malaysia has to offer for digital nomads, entrepreneurs, and investors looking to protect their assets and go where they are treated best.
Sounds good, Nigel. We're breaking down everything you need to know about Labuan company formation, costs, benefits, risks, and whether it's worth it for you. If you're serious about moving or structuring your business smarter, Nigel and I can help you do it with confidence. Let's get into it.
Thank you. Let's start.
So Nigel, why should Westerners even consider setting up a business in Malaysia, specifically Labuan?
All right, well, let's talk about Malaysia first before we even get into Labuan. One of the best things about Malaysia is that it shares the same time zone with most of Asia. Not all countries, but most of Asia. One of the best things about Labuan, on the other hand, is that it has a very different tax treatment compared to the rest of Malaysia. All right, so Jack has gone throughout his videos, if you've watched some of Jack's videos, the benefits of doing business in Malaysia, buying property in Malaysia. But beneath all that, we are going to explore today this really special federal territory called Labuan. Where is Labuan located? You may not even find it on the map because the island itself is so small. One of the best parts about doing business in Malaysia, in particular Labuan, is the tax treatment there, and we'll go through that in a while.
Interesting. So yeah, Malaysia itself is such a great place to live for all these different reasons. But even if you don't want to use it as, necessarily a place to live full time, it's a great place to travel, explore, and then set up your business in a way that makes sense for you, that allows you to also have residency in Malaysia and the tax benefits that come with it. And most people don't know about it. So let's go into it a bit deeper. Nigel, you've worked extensively with many Aussies and Westerners. So what common themes are you seeing as to why these people are looking to leave their home countries and potentially relocate to Southeast Asia, specifically Malaysia, and specifically their company in Labuan?
Yeah, I think there are quite a few common themes that we can discuss. One of the things that Western countries are going through is the high tax system. They're absolutely being smashed by the cost of living crisis in Australia, in the UK, wherever you are. If you're in a Western democratic country, things are getting tougher, things are getting worse. Right? Business regulations are tightening. The issue with a lot of businesses and business owners in particular is that these red tape, these regulations might become overly burdensome. They cost a lot. You have to apply for licenses to do almost anything. Even if you want to start a food truck and you'd like to park a food truck, near a park, you'll need to get a permit from the council. There is literally an application for everything that you do, and the government scrutinizes you in ways you can't even imagine. And I think that there are better places to go, better places that treat you better, and better places that allow you to operate your business without that much oversight, and it's legal.
I can agree with all the points you've said. I mean, these are the typical comments I get. These are the people when I speak to on consultations, they're talking about the high cost of living. They're talking about the taxes, the regulations, the red tape, the way the country is going culturally. And then to be able to explore a different country that has these options and a solution for not only lifestyle but business, this is very interesting to people from the West, and I can relate with the struggles. So Nigel, we know about setting up business in Malaysia. There's the SDN BHD. This is the typical Malaysian business structure. So what makes Labuan different, and why is it uniquely exciting or interesting to Westerners as opposed to a traditional Malaysian company?
Absolutely. This is my favorite question of them all. So like Australia, for example, where I operate, we have private limited companies. In Malaysia, we call this Sendirian Berhad. Basically the same thing. It's a limited liability company that protects shareholders from any form of liability. So Malaysia has that same sort of company structure that Australia has. But let's talk about Labuan. Why is this place so different? What is the treasure, the jewel of Asia? This is literally what some tax planners have told me that they refer to Labuan as, the jewel of Southeast Asia. Why? You see, Labuan is not a state in Malaysia. It is a federal territory that is run by the federal government. It has a completely different tax system. It has a territorial tax system. So in Malaysia, the company tax rate is similar to Australia. It's in the mid-20s%, 24, 26%. But in Labuan, the tax rate is 3% of net profit. What that means is that you can choose to either pay 3% taxes or cap, this is another requirement, or this is another benefit, I'd say, to cap your tax rate at 20,000 ringgit a year, which is equivalent to about 5,000 USD actually. So one of the benefits that Labuan has compared to Sendirian Berhad is the tax system itself. We won't even go into the asset protection part. That's something that I will go in a bit later. But one of the key benefits that you would want to consider is the tax system. It is very favorable to digital nomads and to foreigners looking to move overseas.
So it's completely different. This is why it opened my eyes when I was introduced to it, and this is something that I'm really passionate about sharing with you guys as a solution to your problems, because it's different. People need to know about this. Labuan obviously has these advantages, but who is it typically for? I mean, which clients are you seeing getting the most out of Labuan company formation? What type of people would benefit most from this?
Yeah, let's first talk about who does not qualify for a Labuan company, because most people believe that anyone is entitled to form a Labuan company without any form of repercussions. When we set up these sort of structures for our clients, these are clients who have chosen that it is the right decision to do. They've chosen to make the decision to relocate to Malaysia, which means to leave the tax system that they are currently tied to. It's getting more and more difficult with the new regulations that Australia has put into place. The UK and other countries are also making it relatively difficult for their citizens and their residents to relocate to a different tax jurisdiction, and I think that's because it is really a revenue raising endeavor for them. But for those people who are looking to relocate to Malaysia, not everyone is allowed to benefit from a Labuan company. Let's take, for example, if you're a doctor or a plastic surgeon, a plumber, an electrician in Australia, you do not qualify for Labuan company. Now, why is that so? Because these are considered local businesses. Local businesses do not qualify as digital businesses that can be easily relocated to a jurisdiction like Labuan. Let's put aside Cayman Islands, British Virgin Islands. Nothing, not one of them can compare to Labuan in terms of the level of asset protection, privacy, and tax benefits that you can achieve.
Fascinating. That is very interesting, and it'll be an eye-opener to many of you who have heard of these other places, but no one talks about Labuan. So who is it really for? So we're talking about digital businesses, so freelancers, digital nomads, people with obviously decent income, crypto bros, and even forex traders. And is it feasible for family offices or investment holdings as well?
Absolutely. I think asset protection is the main reason why most high net worth individuals choose to move their families and their businesses to Labuan. Labuan has one of the most powerful asset protection laws in place. Not only that, coupled with the most powerful privacy law, which essentially dictates that Labuan does not have a public company register. You can't even search up a Labuan company, even if you wanted to. In Australia, here's what we do. If we have a company that we want to track down, if we want to find out who the directors and the shareholders are, we go to ASIC. ASIC is the Australian Securities Investment Commission. They have a website. They are the corporate regulator of Australia. You can do a simple search for just $10 and you can pull out an entire extract, including the names and addresses of all the directors and shareholders.
Nigel, what type of costs are involved with setting up the Labuan company? What do people need to consider?
It's an interesting question. I think this is the most common question that I get asked as to how much does it cost? Well, it really depends, because some people have different reasons for setting up a Labuan company. Sometimes they're setting up the Labuan company to do trading, where they want to take advantage of the 3% tax rate. That is a different company from a Labuan investment investment company, which has a 0% tax rate for investment activities, which means that company cannot trade, it cannot do business, it cannot issue invoices, but that company can invest. Whether you're a crypto bro with a gigantic stake in Bitcoin, you can invest that, you can make money. There is no capital gains tax in Malaysia, and the tax rate on investment gains, which is capital gain, is 0%. In Australia, it's eye-watering, but in Labuan, it's 0%. So any liquid assets, we would certainly recommend that it is moved to Labuan. If you're choosing to leave the tax system legally in Australia or any other Western country, do the right thing, follow the proper process, keep the regulators and the Australian tax office, for example, in the loop. You need to cover your bases. You need to do things above board, because the consequences for any breaches of tax laws can be significantly consequential to your long-term livelihood, whether it's here or in Australia. If you do return and you owe a debt to the Australian government, it will impede your ability to even apply for, say, citizenship if you are a permanent resident currently living in Australia.
Yeah, that's right. So there's going to be these application costs to set up. It's going to depend on your circumstance. And obviously there are going to be ongoing yearly costs to maintain this, and audit requirements and tax requirements.
But
right?
I guess it's all very circumstantial. It really depends on your circumstances. We do charge a professional service fee. There will be the fees for setting up the Labuan company. It's a one-off incorporation fee. And then there's the yearly maintenance, auditing, and all that, as you would in any other country.
That's right. And to have the right people in your corner and getting it set up properly is obviously very important. And that's what we want. That's good to know. Nigel, is a Labuan company actually legal for expats, and how would it work with their current local laws?
Interesting. That's a pretty good question. Now, each country has a different tax system. Sometimes they have treaties with different countries. Labuan has tax treaties with several countries. Australia is not one of them, but Malaysia, which is the overall, parent country that governs Labuan, Malaysia does have a double taxation treaty with Australia. So in terms of whether it's actually legal for Australians to set up, absolutely. The Australian Tax Office even has a guideline on their website as to how to declare your offshore entity to the Australian Tax Office. All they want is for you to make sure that you're doing the right thing by disclosing where you have your offshore assets, right? The ATO just wants you to be honest, right? It's not illegal. They have made it explicitly clear that offshore structures are not illegal. They are a company essentially in a different country. Of course, the word offshore itself has a bit of a negative connotation, but I'd say that it is not illegal. It is certainly very legal, but it depends on how you act after the fact, after you've set it up. Are you going to comply, or are you going to breach the laws, all right, whereby you actually do not comply by telling the Australian Tax Office or the HMRC as to where your assets are being held?
So specifically, what are the real tax benefits that come with a Labuan company? Because that is one of the major benefits.
Yeah. Well, my favorite of all is no capital gains tax. Meaning that,
sounds good.
Yep. Yes, it does actually sound good, because anytime you make a gain or you sell your crypto or your Bitcoin for an eye-watering amount, you're not going to be expecting a large capital gains tax bill as a result of that. So no CGT. That doesn't just apply to Labuan, that applies to the entire Malaysia, which is a huge benefit. It's not just Labuan that doesn't have CGT. Malaysia has SST, which is similar to GST, but it's only at 7%, so it's a bit lower. And in terms of the taxation, as I said, there are two types of Labuan companies. One is the Labuan Investment, 0% tax on all gains, and the Labuan Trading Company. This is where you actually have a business that's generating revenue, you're issuing invoices, and that company itself, you get a 3% tax rate or capped at 5,000 USD tax rate. All right, so I think it's quite attractive in that respect.
Amazing. Sounds appealing to me. So say I'm Malaysian, I'm interested in this structure. You can't open a Labuan company if you're Malaysian, is that right? And can Labuan companies operate business in Malaysia?
Yeah, second question first. Labuan companies can definitely operate in Malaysia. In terms of Malaysians operating a Labuan company, it really depends. So Malaysians that operate local businesses, a dentist, a lawyer, a chiropractor, a cafe, these people can't apply for a Labuan company. If they try to shift their revenue, the Inland Revenue Board, which is the ATO equivalent in Malaysia, will come after you. It is equivalent to an Australian local business looking to set up a Labuan account. It's tax evasion, it's illegal, it's not doable, all right? It's highly risky. Labuan companies are more for people who are looking to relocate from a different country. Usually they are expats, foreigners, and the laws specifically apply and benefit foreigners, because one of the reasons why Labuan still exists is they want to try to attract foreign capital, foreign talent, and foreign investment into the country. And Labuan is such a destination for a lot of these investors and small-time traders who are looking to leave their country legally and move to a country that treats them best. Labuan is the ideal place to set up a company, but it really depends on what your business activity is. The Labuan regulator, the Labuan FSA, will also scrutinize you. They will ask you questions as to what your business entails, and as part of your application, you need to be very detailed if you wish to have the best chance for that application to be accepted.
Yeah, that's really interesting what you mentioned there as well. And I have this question is for Labuan itself, what's the incentive to bring in expats, foreigners, to offer this favourable business structure? You just covered it. They bring in foreign capital and talent. Would you say that's the main motivation as to why they're doing this?
Yeah, I think one of the things Malaysia is also looking to do is increase the number of foreign investments. We've seen the current Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim travel all over the world to try to strike free trade deals with different countries, including America, China, and other European countries, to bring that foreign investment into Malaysia. So I think Labuan has a great future. I think it is a perfect jurisdiction that the Malaysian government has maintained, and I think it was the right choice for them to keep Labuan. Labuan was meant in history. It was set up by the British. There were Australians who were also involved in Labuan as well. You see, the British, what they were intending to do back in the day together with the Malaysians were to try to replicate Singapore's success. That's what they were trying to do. What happened was that, it didn't replicate Singapore's success because Labuan in itself is not Singapore. It's a very small island. The population is relatively tiny. You don't have a lot of entertainment in Labuan. So Labuan isn't exactly the place that you want to live when you're in Malaysia. Sure, you've exited your country, whether it's Australia, whether it's the UK, and you've chosen to come to Malaysia, right? And I'm sure for those of you who are choosing to come to Malaysia, the appeal of Malaysia comes from cities like Kuala Lumpur. That's where you want to live. And the beauty about Labuan is that you can apply for something known as a Labuan Director's Visa. The secret weapon, in my view, to basically overcoming the requirements of MM2H, which is a much, much harder visa to apply for. It is very, very expensive, and there is no guarantee at all that you will get that MM2H unless you fit all and tick all the boxes and all the requirements. But for company directors who set up a Labuan bank account and a Labuan company, they are entitled to apply for a little-known visa known as a Labuan Director's Visa, the secret weapon them all. It is a 2-year visa that you will be instantly eligible for the moment you set up a Labuan company. So instead of going through the hassle of going through the usual visa processes in Malaysia, you could set up a Labuan company and get your Labuan Director's Visa. It is a 2-year renewable visa.
Amazing. Yeah, that's another massive benefit that we need to talk about as well, the whole visa situation. So if you're looking for something a little bit different, if you think MM2H is quite onerous, it is. I mean, the financial requirements are, and if you have that kind of money and you have a business set up, then Labuan probably actually makes a lot more sense for your scenario, right? Yep. So to emphasize, you can get this, have the Labuan company set up, you can get the visa, and you can live anywhere in Malaysia, you can travel, you can go wherever you want, right?
Yes, absolutely. So that's the benefit of going for a Labuan Director's Visa as opposed to the usual MM2H. For MM2H, you'll need to acquire property in 6 figures, sometimes even 7 figures. In my hometown, it is a little bit cheaper, probably in the high 6 figures, but it is still an onerous expense. You still need to buy property and put a lot of money into the relocation process itself. But for a Labuan Director's Visa, you are eligible the moment you get a company set up. So the eligibility comes not from your merit. The eligibility to get that visa comes from the fact that you just set up a company. And that in itself, because you're a director, you are now entitled to apply for this special visa, which is a 2-year visa. It is called a Labuan Director's Visa. And the best part about this visa is that you do not need to stay in Labuan. That visa entitles you, like any other Malaysian visa, to live in any state. Any state. You can choose any state in Malaysia and you can live there. on that Labuan Director's visa. When it expires or when it's nearing its end, just renew it.
Great. Okay, so the director can get this visa.
Sure.
What about their dependents? Because there's going to be families, there's going to be people who want to relocate as part of their whole life plan. Does it also cover that as well?
Yes, I think one of the benefits of the Labuan Director's visa is not just the ability for the director to relocate themselves. I think the Malaysian government has considered the fact that a lot of these entrepreneurs and expats that do come to Malaysia, they come to Malaysia bringing family members, and they're also, people with families. So it is the benefit of the Labuan Director visa that dependents will be issued their own passes upon arrival. So who can be qualified as a dependent? Well, I'd say wife, definitely. If you're lawfully married to your spouse, whether your wife or your husband, then you are also able to bring them. They can be a dependent, and children under the age of 21 years of age. All right. So if your children are still under the age of 21, you can bring them as well as dependents, and there's no limit.
Amazing. This is sounding like an excellent solution to the viewers that would be interested in this. Wow. Okay, so if someone has set up a Labuan company, what about the banking options and the currency remittance, sending money back overseas? How does that all work in terms of the bank accounts and moving money around?
I love that question, and I think one of the things that we can be very proud of is that Labuan just has some of the best banks that you are familiar with. These are names, household names that you know. HSBC, OCBC, BNP Paribas, some of the European banks, everyone's in Labuan. The thing is, you're not going to Labuan and finding some dodgy bank that you can't trust. These are household names that you are familiar with. British banks, they're all there. Chinese banks. Definitely HSBC, OCBC Bank, they are one of the top banks that people choose in terms of banking there. I think DBS, they also have a branch in Labuan. So in terms of banking, you have access to top tier banks, very, very safe banking regulations. You can take comfort in the fact that your money isn't at risk in any way. In fact, parking your money in Labuan is the safest decision that you can execute in terms of protecting your assets long term for your children and your loved ones.
Yeah, Singapore banks are very well regarded, and I also bank with HSBC here in Malaysia, so I vouch for them as well.
Yeah, I think one of the things that a lot of expats would be thinking of is can they accept my currency? Well, Labuan has multi-currency accounts, so you can hold monies in Australian dollars, USD, euros. Basically, most of the major currencies. I'm sure there are some smaller currencies that may not be available, but I'd say if you're trading in USD, AUD, GBP, you should be fine.
Amazing. Now, Nigel, I know when people are looking for offshore companies, we hear people talking about Dubai, Singapore, Hong Kong, but specifically Dubai. A lot of entrepreneurs, high net people want to go to Dubai, but you have some interesting thoughts on that. And how does Labuan compare, and why is it actually a viable or more than a viable option? Why is it a better option?
Yeah, I think UAE is under increasing regulatory scrutiny. I think for many, many years they've just gone under the radar. But with the explosion of digital nomads heading there as a result of influencers like Andrew Tate and some of the other, social media influencers who have, pitched Dubai as the next haven to go to, I highly disagree. I think that Dubai is a great place. I'm sure that it has developed into something that we should all be in awe of, because they were just a barren piece of land, and the founder of Dubai has done, to his credit, an incredible job in building one of the most remarkable tax havens and jurisdictions that a lot of people go to now. But from our perspective, I think that it's becoming more and more scrutinized. It is a lot more expensive to set up a UAE account as opposed to a Labuan company. So in UAE, you would be spending anywhere between 30 to 50,000 USD just to set up the entire company.
Yeah, so we'll put up the full table of the comparison, and it shows you the different requirements. I know Dubai has different residency requirements and visa options as well. Labuan seems like a far more favourable treatment. So you can refer to that here, and we might also put that little ebook with all the details about this visa in the description below as well. So this is all very interesting, but all this stuff gets complicated. I mean, you've got a lot of moving parts and a lot of forms to fill in. I'm sure there's a lot to do. So for someone looking to set up a Labuan company for themselves, why should they use a lawyer like you or a specialist to do this rather than trying to do it themselves? Because I mean, personally, I would not want to deal with the paperwork. What's the advantage of using the right people?
Even if you wanted to set up everything on your own, you can't. I think one of the reasons why a lot of expat clients come to us is because we have two offices. We have an Australian office where I practice predominantly, and our Malaysian office.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I know a lot of you might be on the fence because you don't want to be dealing with what you see as this dodgy area in Malaysia. Maybe you've never been here, but having that behind you, having the credibility of an Australian-based legal firm, legal practice and jurisdiction, it gives you confidence. I mean, it gives me confidence to be able to recommend and refer Nigel on the channel and talk to you. And even if you're not from Australia, if you're from another Western country, from any country in the world, everyone respects Australian rule of law. So if you're going through this avenue, you're getting the right advice, you're getting the right service, everything's going to be done correctly, right?
Absolutely. I think having an Australian practice as well gives us a lot of comfort in also being able to deliver a good service to our clients. A lot of our clients can get reassured that we will do the right thing by them because we are regulated strictly in Australia in terms of all our legal services.
Exactly, and you're answerable in Australian courts and stuff as well, right? So Nigel, if someone is interested, if you've made it to this point of the video, you're definitely interested. How do they get in touch and how do they go about starting to get this set up?
Well, the greatest journey for your business is just about to begin. Your legacy and the creation of what is going to be something that's truly meaningful and long-lasting for the generations to come is about to begin. And so if you've made it this far and you're clearly interested in setting up shop in the most powerful tax jurisdiction in existence, then contact my good friend here, Jack. You've been watching him for years. Jack and I work together.
Yeah, so send me an email. We can have a chat. I'll set you up with Nigel. We can have a chat together, whatever you're most comfortable with, because we need to understand your specific situation. It's better for you, it's better for us, and we can all get the best result for you and your business.
By all means, please contact us because we do need to assess and review your case. Many times there are clients that come to us that we have no choice. We regretfully have to turn them away because they don't qualify.
Thanks, Nigel. That was a really interesting discussion. Love it as always. So if you're serious about reducing your taxes, improving your setup, and even relocating, getting that visa to come live in Malaysia, we'd love to hear from you. Send me an email or book a consultation with me. All the links in the description. And let's start building your future together the right way. Subscribe for more videos about living smart in Asia, and I will see you in the next one.